two really fun games on at the same time. And then talking about fun games, that Bama-Georgia game was on another level. I didn't see it live, but
so that was the game that after our game ended in here, and I was finishing up everything in the studio. I had that game pulled up on my computer, and I saw the last 8 minutes of that game, which was really most of what you had to see at that point, because it was, when I turned it on, Georgia was down, I think it was 11 or 12, and then they scored almost immediately on that I think it was a 2-play drive, or maybe that was the one that took the lead. Either way, they scored quickly on back-to-back drives. Then Alabama scores and answers.
Zero defense.
It was ridiculous. It was an incredible game.
Which, by the way, I think that game proves that neither of those teams are the best team in the country. People don't want to hear that because Bama won. Bama only won because they got bailed out by Georgia's bad defense.
So I'll ask you, who do you think is the best team in the country at this point?
I said it last week, and I'm going to stick with it even after it was a little rough against Mississippi State. I think it's Texas. I think they're the team with the least amount of flaws. That's what I'm going off.
I agree. I think I agree with you. I think it was impossible to not put Alabama at 1 after their win. But I think
Alabama
disagree.
has too many flaws.
Alabama's going to lose one of these games. They're to me, I'm going to pull up their schedule real quick and see.
It gets crazy.
There's no.
It's like 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
Here. They've got Tennessee.
Man, that'll be fun.
3 weeks. Then Missouri. Then LSU. They've got Oklahoma later in the year. They're going to lose one of those. I mean, Tennessee. I don't know. I haven't watched much Tennessee this year.
It's in Rocky Top.
It's in Rocky Top, yeah. I haven't watched much Tennessee this year, so I can't judge, but they've...
I also think it's funny. So many SEC fans, just fans across the country, are saying that game was the game of the year. It's like, we're just getting to this SEC schedule.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you say that in
Tennessee,
week 5?
Tennessee and Alabama, then Tennessee, Georgia a little later in November, man, those are 2 games that could decide the SEC right there. I mean, I think regardless of what you want to say, those are pretty clearly the 3 best teams in the conference.
When's the Bama-Texas game?
Bama, I don't think they play this year.
Do they not play?
I don't think they play. That's what I was looking for. I thought Bama and Texas did play. Who does Texas plays somebody big though?
Is it Texas, Georgia then?
I think you're right. I'm gonna look this up. I think you're right because I know Texas gets. They get somebody. They got Oklahoma, obviously, in 2 weeks. That's their next game. Yeah, and then they get Georgia right after. They host that game's in Texas, but they will have back-to-back, season-defining games for Texas.
Wow, but they avoid Bama.
They do avoid Bama. And if they win...
And Missouri and Ole Miss.
If Texas finds a way to
and Tennessee.
Win...
They avoid everybody,
If they win both their next 2 games, they will probably finish 12-0.
Yeah, almost definitely.
Yeah.
I don't see him losing to anybody of Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M.
I agree.
Which, by the way, I think Vandy, Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M are all some solid teams, but none of them are top 30 teams. Yeah. I know Kentucky just beat Ole Miss, but you can't be 3-2 and be a top 30 team at this point in the season.
Yeah, agreed.
Wow, yeah, Texas really has it lined up.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I mean, that Georgia game is going to be the season-defining game. Yeah, for sure.
And Georgia's already shown so many flaws this season. You can just look at that film and say, yep, we can do this, and beat Georgia. And I think it's the same thing with Bama. There is a formula to containing Milroe.
I don't trust Milroe at all.
And then there's a formula for making Milroe make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, there's a formula to scoring against Bama. Otherwise, Georgia wouldn't score a bajillion points.
Exactly.
Really fast.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of other teams in the SEC are going to be looking at that film and salivating, saying, hey, we can do that.
Yeah.
Sure, we know Georgia talent, but we can do that too.
Yeah.
Does Bama play Missouri?
Yes, they
My
play
goodness, that
Missouri.
could be a legacy game for Luther Burden.
That's right after they travel the Rocky Top.
I could just see him going for 200 yards or whatever. Which, by the way, people have been asking me my Heisman favorite right now. It's Ashton Jeanty. I know people are going to say some other names.
It has to be.
The top quarterback in college football right now is Quinn Ewers, and he's not playing. So then some other quarterbacks, like Milroe isn't a Heisman right now.
No.
Shadour's not a Heisman. Come on.
Stop it with that. Come on now.
So I'm looking at Ashton Jeanty. I'm like, yeah, I think he's the top guy for me right now.
I mean, he has to be. He's putting up video game numbers,
against some good teams.
Yeah, until it stops, which who knows if it's going to. Like, you got to keep riding with that.
And I think the one thing that could keep him is the fact that he plays at Boise State, but the fact that Boise State could also make the playoffs. But which I'll say right now, I know that postseason stuff doesn't happen, but if Boise State's the top Group of 5 team, I think he wins the Heisman because it will mean that he was ridiculous all year.
I'd agree, and I mean, it's not really a game on their schedule. Looking at it right now, like maybe UNLV, but they just lost their quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's the only game that really provides much worry for me right now for Boise State. We'll see.